The last two lessons introduced us to how Hitler rose to power as the dictator of Germany. We know that in any dictatorial regime, it is just one single leader who is known as the dictator, or a group of people who rule that state. And now we will be discussing how Nazi dictatorship was in Germany. Hitler was the leader of the Nazi party that became the most popular and prominent in Germany around this point of time. And as students of history, we will now be learning how this Nazi dictatorship was unfurling over the German masses. With Hitler becoming the dictator, civil liberties were suspended and various political parties, trade unions, apart from the Nazi party, were abolished. Now, in a dictatorship, the dictators never want any kind of criticism or dissident opinion. And to this end, when Hitler came to power as the dictator of Germany, he abolished all political parties and trade unions. So, these political parties and trade unions, apart from the Nazi party, ceased to exist in Germany from this point of time. At the same time, in dictatorial regime, people's opinion is also suppressed to a great extent. Now, how do you think do people express their opinions? It happens mostly through media and various kinds of print mediums. And for this reason as well, Hitler now controlled media in Germany. Now, he was the undisputed leader of the German masses. And it goes without saying that he had absolute administrative power and military power in Germany. And it was inevitable that German economy and army went under the control of Hitler and the Nazi party. Hitler was a leader who rose to power on account of his charisma, on account of his great oratorial skills. But when he came to power, he was not at all willing to accept or acknowledge any kind of opinion that contradicted his. The only kind of language that Hitler wanted to spread among the masses was that of militantism. Nationalism in an overt kind of way, coupled with militantism, was what the Nazi propaganda stood for. So Hitler kept the population under his control, or rather under his foot, and propagated the program of the Nazi party in a language that Germany understood, and it was one of militantism. And in order to spread this language of militantism among the masses, it was imperative on the part of Hitler to maintain a proper military force. So let us now learn the various agencies that were instituted by the Nazi party. And there we will get to learn how these various agencies functioned to keep the Germans under the control of the Nazi party. So we begin with the paramilitary forces. Now, apart from the regular German police, there now came into being a new paramilitary force that was known as the stormtroopers, the brown shirts, or the SA. Simply on account of the brown uniform of this paramilitary wing of the Nazi party, this group came to be known as the brown shirts, the SA, or the stormtroopers. Now, over the years, the stormtroopers or brown shirts gave Germany its horrible and dreaded status. And then there was another paramilitary wing which was known as the Schutzstaffel or SS. Now, the SS was a protection squad, and the SS initially came together as a group of Nazi volunteers who were supposed to give protection to the Nazi workers during Nazi meetings. But over the years, this now became one of the most important agencies of the Nazi party. And this protection squad was actually sought to maintain a coercive system of scrutiny, surveillance, and terror in Germany. So these were the paramilitary wings that came into being as agencies of the Nazi party after Hitler became the dictator of Germany. Then next we move on to the Nazi secret police that was known as the Gestapo. Now the Gestapo was tasked to take care of different kinds of things. It used to perform sabotages, and all kinds of criminals were convicted by the Gestapo. Now Gestapo also maintained a very strict surveillance system, and the Gestapo's measures were very rigid. People even without any proper arrest warrant were arrested by the Gestapo. And then these people were sent either to the Gestapo police chambers where they were tortured, brutally beaten with rods, with handcuffs and whipped, or they were sent to the concentration camps. And then there was another agency of the Nazi party that was known as the SD. Now the SD was an intelligence agency. Now many of us are familiar with the functioning of intelligence agencies. These intelligence agencies actually work secretly in order to root out criminals. But during the Nazi rule, the SD worked to root out all those people who they deemed were opponents of the Nazi party. And a very important point that we need to keep in our minds is that these agencies of the Nazi party had extra constitutional powers. That is to say, these were beyond the constitutional power in Germany. They ravaged the German masses in every possible way. Terror and dread prevailed among the masses when these agencies were functioning in full pelt. Before proceeding with this lesson, let me ask you a question. Which of these was the secret police of the Nazi party? Was it the stormtroopers, the brown shirts, the Gestapo, or the Schutzstaffel? Well, the correct answer is the Gestapo. The Gestapo was the secret police of the Nazi party. So we just learned how the Nazi party under Hitler maintained a very strict system of espionage, surveillance, terror and coercion. But this was a way to keep the masses under the control of Hitler. But when Hitler came to power, he had actually sold the dream of a better and recuperated Germany to millions of Germans. And to this end, he had to do something so that the masses believed that Hitler was their real leader, that Hitler had come to recuperate the German economy, the German polity, the German state as a whole. And to this end, Hitler now assigned the task of recovering German economy to the German economist and banker Homer Schott. Now, what policies do you think were implemented by Homer Schott? Schott now aimed at full production and full employment through a state-funded work creation program. Now, till this point of time, being ravaged by the First World War, the Treaty of Versailles, or even the Great Depression, the German masses were on the streets. They were unemployed. They were reduced to a state of poverty and hunger. And this economist and banker knew that he had to do something in order to provide employment to the German masses. And it is only through providing employment that he thought that the German masses would be able to earn their living. He also sought to make the German economy self-sufficient, and for this reason he now introduced various state-funded work creation program. That is to say, now the state would fund and sponsor various employment programs. Firstly, in this series of economic reforms that were brought into being by this German economist Homer Schott at this point of time, we should begin discussing by how factories were set up to provide work to the laborers, and this was also meant to jumpstart the German economy. Now, the German economy was not just faltering at this point of time, it had completely collapsed, so to speak. And Germany had also lost many of its resource-rich regions, which is why the German industries were not at all functioning properly. But now new factories were springing up, and in these new factories many people got to work. So at the same time, these factories were providing employment to the laborers as well as contributing to the German economy. Next we see certain state-sponsored campaigns, and these state-sponsored campaigns and endorsements encouraged trade, industrial and agricultural production. Now, only setting up factories was not a solution to recuperating German economy. These factories could produce finished goods. But what would be done with the finished goods if trade activities are not encouraged? And so the state now started sponsoring and encouraging trade activities. And it also helped in boosting industrial and agricultural production. That is to say, at this point of time, the masses were seeing that Hitler, as their real liberator, was doing a lot to contribute to the German economy, to actually making their lives better. Well, how good their lives became during the Nazi rule is a matter of separate discussion that we will be taking up later on. Now, with the German state sponsoring various employment programs and encouraging trade activities, industrial production, agricultural production, came state interference as well. So from this point of time, the state now started controlling the price of different goods. Since these goods were being produced in the factories which were sponsored by the state, the German state now took it upon itself to set the price of goods, and in this way it was also successful in regulating the ever increasing prices of different commodities. And simultaneously the state also completely banned or stopped export-import. Now, why do you think was export-import restricted? This is because this was to ensure the stop of the flow of German currency. Now, we have learned how the reckless printing of German paper currency had resulted in inflation, and that in turn paved the way for the hyperinflation crisis of 1923. Now, Hitler's economic policies at this point of time was meant to make Germany self-sufficient. And the German currency was not to go outside Germany. The German currency was to be in the hands of the Germans in Germany itself. And so, for this reason, import-export was completely restricted. Totalitarian as Hitler was, he wanted to bring everything under his control, be that the German masses, the German economy, the German production units. And so, Hitler dissolved all trade unions. These trade unions might be the source of dissident opinions, and out of fear of any kind of criticism, Hitler dissolved all trade unions. And even all the industries were also brought under state control. During this point of time, many of these industries were owned by private owners. But despite this, those industries were under the state control. That is to say, these industries which were actually helping in recovering the German economy were not functioning as autonomous units at this point of time. So, the most important thing that we need to keep in our minds is that everything that was happening to the German economy during this time was state-sponsored. Everything was being regulated by the state. But then Hitler thought that by dissolving all trade unions, all political parties, all kinds of unions, the workers and the laborers who were working in the factories and industries might feel a sense of resentment. They might be enraged at this. And so he now wanted to assure that he was safeguarding the interests of the workers. And to this end, there was now established the Labour Front of the Nazi Party. So the Labour Front of the Nazi Party was now to keep the workers under an impression that it would safeguard their interests. Now Hitler wanted to transform Germany into a militant state, a state that other European powers or even other international powers will fear. And how can a state be feared without the military forces? And to this end, Hitler now boosted the production of weapons and heavy armaments. And Hitler thought that by increasingly rearming the German state, this state would now be feared in the international politics. Hitler also undertook significant public work projects. Now all these were meant to create an impression that Hitler was working for the German masses. Hitler was actually trying to bring the German masses out of the muck, out of the shadow of financial depravity, of economic turbulence. And so he started building government offices. And at the same time, he also undertook the construction of German superhighways, which were known as the Autobahn. Now this was an elaborate transportation system, and here you can see how wide these German superhighways were. And then he also funded the building of schools and colleges. So what we can see from this is that Hitler was now trying to holistically develop the German society. Hitler also wanted the masses to believe that they were out of the state of economic crisis. They had the ability to own cars. All this while, owning a car was a big thing for the German masses who were struggling to feed themselves. But at this point of time, Hitler now introduced Volkswagen, or the people's car. Now posters were being made at this point of time that people, by saving up certain portions of their earning, would be able to get hold of Volkswagen or the people's car. And the VW Beetle was the first car that was introduced for the German masses. So for Germans to travel on the highways, Hitler now introduced a car as well. But the economic reforms that were happening during the Nazi rule weren't very simple. It might seem that Hitler was trying to do a lot for the masses, but there was a lot beneath the surface as well. The Nazi economic policy was riddled with certain issues like that of propaganda. What is that? Hitler was actually wanting to put forward a propaganda of German superiority. Now the German masses were being made to believe that they were superior. The German masses were being made to believe that they were out of a state of economic crisis. And often falsification of reality was done by the Nazi agencies. How was this done? If the prices of certain things had increased, those were not shown likewise. And the people were also made to believe that the state of economic crisis was over because the German economy was recuperating, because the German economy was now stronger than ever. But this was much away from the reality that we will be focusing on in a subsequent lesson. And at the same time, the Nazi economic policy also reeked of militant intentions, because Hitler wanted to transform Germany into a militant state, a state that would not be just powerful but feared by the international powers. So these were the issues that were cropping up beneath the Nazi economic policy. Now, having learned at great length about the Nazi dictatorship in Germany, in our subsequent lesson we will be looking at Hitler's foreign policies. That is to say, we will be moving beyond Germany and try to understand what Hitler was doing in the international scenario and how Hitler was influencing world politics after becoming the dictator of Germany. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. You can also register for free at DeltaStep.com or download the DeltaStep app to learn one-to-one with our amazing teachers or to get access to all our 5,000 plus amazing videos as per your school syllabus. Master each topic with our adaptive practice technology. Get million plus questions with step-by-step solutions and unlimited mock tests. Get all your doubts resolved instantly. Learn via games and win amazing prizes like PlayStations and iPads. So at DeltaStep, learning is not just fun and easy, it's rewarding too. So register for free now.